Let's jump to the story. This is huge news from Timcast.com. Scotus strikes down New York State's proper cause gun control law. Justice Thomas says Second and 14th Amendments protect an individual's right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home. That's an amazing statement.
Yes.
And the reason I wanted to jump into this story too is we're getting into the gun control conversation. Yeah. One of the statements made by Alito was that the argument from the gun control side was that these laws are needed to prevent mass shootings. And he said, one of those happened in New York where you have this law. It did not do anything. That's the most frustrating thing to me, is that you get a lot of these gun control people argue for things that already exist. I had someone just send to me an article, and it was like, these laws could end gun violence. And it was like 4 things that are already in place. Banning assault rifles is like, did you Google this before you wrote it or shared it?
Right. Well, and that was the reason I even asked the congressman, is because you're literally seeing people on the left just accuse, if you're not pro gun control, that you just are cool with murder, instead of asking people with experience with firearms, hey, what do you, as someone who has more experience than me, who's never touched a gun, what do you actually think we should do?
Yeah, I tell you what, the laws are there. The laws are on the books. They just need to be enforced. You know, in Texas now we have constitutional carry, so you don't have to go out and get an LTC. You don't have to go out and get a license. It's a constitutional carry. So people are carrying guns. And I tell you what, the crime in Houston is out of control, and people are starting to carry more guns. You're seeing sales increasing guns, because if people can't count on their government to keep them safe. George Soros has gone out there, and all these DAs are in these offices now across our country, and they're leaving these criminals out. So these people, I think the American people, are starting to carry more weapons because they say, I can't count on my government to keep me safe. I have to keep myself safe and my family. And I can't blame them, because it's out of control. Our cities are burning, gentlemen.
Now, is that working? Are the places with more people carrying, do they become safer because of that sort of fear tactic of, I'll tell you this, when I finally moved to southern states, I certainly don't honk my horn as much when I'm cut off, because I'm like, I don't know what that guy's carrying.
I understand, and that's not the point. It's better to have it, not need it not have it. But I'm just saying that criminals would have to kind of pause a little bit and take a second thing. Hey, am I going to pull a gun on that guy because he may have one?
Right. So let's talk a bit about this ruling. We can thank Brett Kavanaugh for blocking constitutional carry nationwide.
Shocking.
He said basically that this does not impact the existing permitting rules in 43 states. That means if you're in a state that requires a permit for concealed carry, well, they did not touch that. Come on, Kavanaugh. You should have come out and been like, the government requiring permission for you to bear arms is an infringement upon your right to bear arms. However, he's of the opinion the government can not stop you from having it, but they can be forced to grant permission, which in my opinion makes no sense, because if they can deny you a permit for any reason, then government permission as a requirement infringes upon your rights. But this does mean that it's likely going to impact Maryland, New Jersey. Obviously it's New York, California, Hawaii, and the District of Columbia. So this means in all likelihood, these states will now have to actually give you a permit. It's already prohibitively restrictive in terms of what you need to do to apply for one. So while this is a good ruling, the problem is Maryland is not going to. So here's how it works. Maryland, New York, New Jersey, they say, okay, you filled the forms, you got the training. Why do you need the weapon? Mm-hmm. And this is what the Supreme Court struck down. You can't ask that. You can tell them, here's the requirements, and then you got to give them the permit. Because these states were just saying, why you need a legitimate reason for this. And no matter what you said, they went, nope. One of the plaintiffs said, he needed a weapon because of a string of violent robberies in his area and needed to protect himself. And they said, no. I'm like, what more could you ask for? If you're famous, if you're rich, some of these states will give them to you, but New Jersey, New York still don't, even if you're rich and famous.
I got rejected and I just said revenge.
Yeah, that's not a good reason.
Not a good one.
I once saw a guy in Walmart trying to buy a gun, and he was openly talking about how he wanted to get revenge on someone.
No, really?
Yeah, and then he got escorted out by the police. They wouldn't sell it to him.
Well, that's good.
But so basically what's happening now is the next moves, in my opinion, it's a good victory. It's tremendous. But what's likely going to happen is that New Jersey and New York will just create very restrictive permitting practices. That's what they were doing. And then they're going to say, we can't ask you for why you need it, but we can ask you to undergo a 3-month psychiatric evaluation. Mm-hmm. So once again, they jam you up. Then someone's going to have to sue. And this took 7 years. to get through. 7 years.
Yeah, I've made it very clear that I will not be supporting this legislation coming through the Senate, and it's very difficult. You think that all the laws that are out there, if you think creating more laws are going to keep the criminals from carrying weapons, they don't care. They don't care about your Supreme Court. They don't care about the chief of police or any laws. They're going to continue to carry these weapons. They're going to continue to hurt and harm the American people, the people that are out there doing good things. The criminals have the guns and they're not giving them up.
Now, hold on. You were a sheriff for 30 years, or you were in law
I was
enforcement?
a sheriff for 8 and law enforcement 30.
Law enforcement for 30 years. So this is in Texas, I'd imagine, right?
That's right.
So you mean to tell me that, so one, constitutional carry is relatively new, but you actually encountered people who defied the law and carried weapons?
Imagine that.
But that doesn't
Can
make
you
sense.
imagine that?
It was,
Hey.
but,
Did
but,
they
no,
re-
no,
did
hold
they
on,
break
wait,
the law?
I said,
Hey, I said-
wait.
I thought that was
This can't be
illegal.
true. It was illegal.
It was like, little Johnny, do you know you're a convicted felon? Yes, sir. Do you know you can't carry a gun? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Did they read
Well,
the
that doesn't
sign?
make
They
sense.
do not
Did they read the
care.
sign?
Did they read the signs that said no,
Wait,
that
I'm
was
not
allowed?
following.
The,
but
the
so, like,
little
he knew
Johnny
he
doesn't
couldn't, but
care.
Still had it?
Little Johnny doesn't care. And
Maybe
you're
he
wondering,
misheard.
we had shootings here in Washington, D.C. here last week. And there was a 15-year-old, and he had a gun. And then there was one a couple weeks prior to that. He was 15-year-old, had a girlfriend, 15-year-old girlfriend, 8 months pregnant. He had a gun. And I'm thinking to myself, you want to talk about the breakdown of the family, right? The fatherless. There's no fathers in their lives, and it's just causing problems. So
That's what it is. A major issue with shootings is that people don't have dads. And the problem is when you try and bring that up to the left, they don't understand. I shouldn't say the left. I always do that. Leftists, they actually like guns. It's liberals. It's these urban liberal types. They can't think beyond single layer issues.
Yeah.
They think someone got shot, therefore get the gun away. And it's like, but you need to understand the person who had the gun had it illegally already. Your new laws won't change. So in Chicago, for instance, they're like, well, it's not Chicago's fault they're doing the shootings. They're getting the guns from Indiana. And it's like, what more law could you put in Illinois if you've already got them? Don't you get it? Yeah. We'll ban all the guns everywhere. They say they don't want to ban guns, but then that's the only argument they
We'll
have to
destroy Indiana.
Well,
did you see
Build
the
a
story
wall.
yesterday?
The big, beautiful wall.
What?
Did you see the story yesterday? A guy walks into one of the stores with a gun to rob the store.
Well, that's
and
not
the
legal.
clerk,
That's
the
not
clerk
legal,
had a
yeah.
gun and shot and killed him.
That's
And the
right.
siblings of the robber, they were outraged on the news. They're actually on the news. The sister was saying, "This is ridiculous. I know he went in and robbed them, but he shouldn't have been shot. He was pointing a gun at the clerk. The clerk had a gun and shot and killed this guy." So
Yeah.
this is the type of
I
silliness that we
I
have.
saw a
Did
similar
you see
story
that-
years ago. I just want to make one point really quickly about this. This is one of the really interesting and obvious flaws with the left is they want to be really, really, really harsh on potential crime, which is to say going after people who haven't done anything wrong because there's a potential that they might. And then when someone actually commits a crime, they want to be really lenient about it.
Do you see the story of the woman at the cell phone store? And the guy walks in and she goes, "Hi, can I help you?" He goes, "Yeah, do you have a..." Boom! And just starts
That was horrible.
mercilessly
That was horrible.
beating her for no reason.
Yeah.
And these are the people they will say. These are the people who they will say, should be able to walk without bail, and it's so cruel that the criminal justice system doesn't give them a second shot. But then, when it comes to law-abiding citizens, they talk about restricting our freedom so that crime won't occur. It's so backwards.
Remember, Kamala set up an account
That's right.
for the 2020 riots to bail out those individuals. That was a true insurrectionist. Listen, when you go up to Seattle and you occupy city blocks, what was it, the Chaz and the Chop and all
How is
that?
that not insurrection?
That is an insurrection,
Yes.
fellas, without question. They were burning down buildings, a police station, everything else, and look at many of them
Oh, it was
really...
a mostly peaceful fire
mostly
in
peaceful.
Minnesota. That's what they
were
said.
yeah.
It's
Fiery
a
but
joke.
mostly peaceful
Fiery but
protest?
mostly
Yeah.
peaceful.
They were
And
roasting
the
marshmallows.
While it's
guys-
burning behind you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry. This is why I think there is the political factions are the cult and regular people, because you have people who are like, the riots that burned down police stations were peaceful. They outright say it. They write articles saying in defense of looting. After the Ferguson riots, they were like, actually, looting is revolutionary, and they're defying the system. And I'm just like, did you talk to any of the people who lived in Ferguson? Because they were angry about the rioting, begging for it to stop. Yeah. And then these progressive urban liberal types, city urban liberal types, come out and write articles being like, actually, the rioting is good, because they're vapid, self-interested egotists who don't understand what's actually going on. I'll tell you, in Ferguson, people who did not live there exploited the chaos and started destroying things and looting them. And the people who did live there were linking arms saying, please, this is our community. These snooty, progressive hipster types in New York, not wanting to do any amount of work to understand the situation, looked at it and said, I'm going to defend those brown people because there must be a good reason why they're rioting.
Well,
and then wrote in defense of looting. And what it really was criminals victimizing a community, and they defended the criminals because they're bad people.
Well, and I will never forget footage. What happened to George Floyd was horrific. I remember seeing footage of, during the rioting, 2 black women begging a white person to stop destroying property.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, these are the ones who, when you hipster tourists go back to your co-op and Park Slope and all that stuff, they're the ones who still have to live here. It's their stores. They're not the ones who killed George Floyd. They're not the ones,
But look, when you simply say something like, I think when they burned down that guy's bar, it was a bad thing, and they go, well, you're racist. It's like, okay, dude.
Yeah, well,
there's no argument.
They don't know how to think outside that. So we also see this. There is obviously a huge part that class plays here. So we were talking about this with the Canadian truckers honking their horns in literally one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the country. All right, honking your horn in such a neighborhood is terrorism. You're trying to overthrow the country. But you go into a poor black neighborhood and burn all the businesses down, that's just A-okay, right? Ends justify means.
you'll scare all the moose if you honk in Canada.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.